Recently, on social media, I hear women want men to pay for everything when they go on a date. My question is, how do you maintain a dating life while staying financially on top of everything else? Story 1. Yes, and I think it does make things harder. In my opinion, the issue isn't so much about paying for everything, except in the first couple of dates, I guess. The issue is that women want financial stability. Especially long-term, that's a big deal. Even if they are making a good salary themselves, they typically won't be as attracted to someone with a low income. Story 2. Yes and no. Dating is just challenging. But up until my 30s, I didn't make much money, and money was never the issue in dating. I always dated for personality type, and if someone were to judge me for my finances alone, that wouldn't be a person I would want to date anyway. So if it limited my options, I honestly didn't know it at the time. Story 3. When I was making under $40,000 per year, I just couldn't go the extra mile on dates. If we went to the Renaissance Fair, I wouldn't be able to afford a costume and tickets. Just tickets. No matching flower crowns. It was very much either or, and having money to go the extra mile on the tiny details, in my opinion, matters. It's not about making over $100,000, but having enough disposable income to spend $100 here and there. Story 4. I do not date for a lot of reasons, but the fact that I do not even make $35,000 is high up on my giant list of nobody would want me, so I am not going to try issues. Story 5. I made very little income in my 20s. I never had trouble dating or getting hookups. I had friends with benefits too. I married at 28. You just have to get out there and take a chance. You may run into someone who's only interested in your money. If you do, move on. There's something better out there. You'll never meet the love of your life if you don't create a chance for it to happen. A friend of mine at work met his new girlfriend in line for coffee. She seems really great. Don't believe most of what you see on social media. Story 6. The more money you make, the more expectations and higher standards you have. All the guys I know that make significantly less than me have partners, wives, and girlfriends. Me, on the other hand, I don't do dating apps, so probably that's why. Story 7. All about perspective. As a college student intern, that was great. As a high school or college graduate, that's still great. Never had issues regardless of current salary. Be confident. Do not date people who are only interested in money. Story 8. I imagine this is largely location dependent. I make around $44,000 to $45,000 a year. The median household income in my area is just under $49,000, so I'm doing pretty well for my location. I'm sure that says something about the Deep South, though. Back when I was younger and dating, I don't know that I dated any women who made more than I did. I'm sure that must have been the case, but none of the women who I seriously dated and had some ideas of their finances made more than I was making. I reckon it also depends on the types you're trying to date as well. Story 9. My partner made a bit less than $40,000 a year, and we met while I was in medical school. His income had very little influence on how I felt being with this amazing human. Dating doesn't have to be expensive. We went for ice cream, skating, rock climbing, movies, dinner, or a drink at a bar. A lot of times we just hung out at his place or mine, cooked together, and watched movies. He brought me study snacks when I had exams. He showed he cared in a million little ways that made all the difference. Keep putting yourself out there. The right person won't care and will make it work. Story 10. Dating has only gotten easier as I age. My finances have never made a difference. I find myself meeting more authentic individuals in my 30s who care more about quality time than materialism. Those women that you see on social media have no substance. Don't think too hard about it. Story 11. I was dating when I was making $20,000 per year a few years back. Some girls don't care because they like you for you and not your money. Awkwardly enough, I make more than double that now, and my dating life is not so great, but I'm also not really putting myself out there like I used to. Story 12. Living on $40,000 would be hard. Dating, if you were great to look at, I'm sure that income wouldn't be a huge barrier. For average guys, it's the same situation as always. Story 13. Who has time to date? Seriously, I can't see someone who works full-time managing the spare time for that. My days off are usually spent catching up on errands that I don't have the time to do during the week. Story 14. Well, for ages I was making less than this. I had my reasons, and contrary to what society would have you believe, if you're both just below that 40,000 line, you can live comfortably. Hell, 40,000 is about average, believe it or not. No, it did not impact my dating life. This was all a decade or more ago, so the mentality of a man needs to make six figures that doesn't start with a 1 is a very modern creation in the past 2 or 3 years. For the past 3 years, I've done quite well and was dating someone. If anything, making good money affected my dating life because they all started seeing dollar signs, wanting to lock you down so they can pick you apart. So, basically, it affected me in the inverse way of what you'd think it would. Story 15. When I made less than $40,000, it wasn't really a problem. I've never dated anyone who expected me to pay for everything. Now that I make more than that, I still wouldn't date anyone who expected me to pay for everything. I'm not a walking wallet, and I don't want a partner who values me for my money. It's true that financial stability is a plus, but nobody should need to prove that stability by paying for someone else. Story 16. Depends on where you live. 40,000 in New York City probably means you live under a bridge. 40,000 in rural Kansas means you drive a new Ford Mustang and have your own house. Story 17. I used to make 83,000 per year but didn't really date because of how tired and stressed I was all the time. It's not always about how much someone makes. Now that I've switched jobs, sure I've taken a slight pay cut, but I'm way happier overall, and that's led to me meeting my current partner who makes my life better in almost every single way. Story 18. Honestly, haven't even considered it for the last decade. I have a low-stress job, coworkers I like, and I'm debt-free with a lot of hobbies to keep me busy. I was married for 8 years in a bad marriage, doing a job I hated that was stressful. I hated my life from the moment I woke until I went to sleep. I suppose I could date, but I couldn't be bothered. Story 19. I'm single by choice, but I still get a lot of offers from the women I've met and know to go out. I decline because in today's world the standards, along with everything else, are inflated. If I go out, it's not going to be a date. We're just hanging out and they pay for their stuff and I pay for mine. But I would rather stay single. Story 20. This answer is going to vary wildly by age. In your early and low 20s, it won't matter if you're attractive. Past your mid-20s, how are you going to find the time when you're barely able to feed, clothe, house yourself, and keep your car running? Story 21. It's not just in dating. If you have female friends, most of the time they want you as the guy to pay the check to. Not all girls, but most in my opinion. They are so used to guys paying that they expect it from every guy. Their entitlement is going way too far. Story 22. Totally depends on where you live. $40,000 a year is a pretty average salary in some places. Where I live, it is hard to survive on anything less than 6 figures, much less have extra spending money for dates and fun things. Story 23. Not at all. It is easy to plan cheap dates. I also will not date outside of my wages either, so I am not going to try to date people with lots of money who are used to the finer things in life. At the end of the day, if I'm paying for all the dates, you best be paying for dessert somewhere else afterward for us both. Story 24. I make a good deal more than 40,000 per year, but I've gone out with a number of women who want to split or want to pay for things for me. Overall, if this is a concern, you should bring it up with whoever you're seeing. Finances are very much a part of relationships. And for what it's worth, a first date should never be something super costly. You're not breaking the bank meeting someone for an hour for a beer or coffee. Story 25. Social media also tells you women want all their men over 6 feet tall, with a full head of hair, a Daniel Craig body walking off the beach in James Bond, and earning all the money. Meanwhile, many actually date the guy who makes them feel good and secure. Story 26. My brother is a literal jobless pillhead who has a different girl on his arm every time I see him. Not some scummy, nasty, overweight women either. Attractive, intelligent, wealthy women love my brother. He treats them like absolute trash and takes as much money as they are willing to give him until he finds the next girl. Women are difficult to understand. Don't try to use logic to comprehend them. It never works. Story 27. When I started dating my current girlfriend, I only made about $32,000 a year and even became unemployed after we had dated for 4 months. She thought I was interesting because of who I was and my personality, not how much I earned. While there undoubtedly are women out there who will scoff at a man earning less than $40,000, they're not worthwhile in the long run. Just move on to the next who likes you for being you. Story 28, the podcast Plain English with Derek Thompson, just had an episode discussing this, mostly from the standpoint of how those currently in their teens to mid-20s. You can see young men becoming more conservative while women become more progressive. Part of the discussion was about how dating prospects and social interaction in general for younger guys is much harder, especially for those on the lower end of the income scale. Story 29, 46,000 a year, with genital herpes, 5 felonies, and full custody of my son. The single dad with full custody always gets their attraction. Also, not being cocky, I'm rather attractive, I've been told. But that doesn't count when you have herpes and little money, even though a small percentage of women I meet have had it. The bottom line is, at 36 years old, I don't have the interest I used to. Could be due to the fact that I have already spread my family's genes. But I always wanted more than one kid. I'm probably holding myself back more than the bad things about me are. Story 30. I am working very hard right now starting a business with my brother, and we are investing a lot of money back into the business to let it grow. We will really start making money once everything is in order. I just ended a relationship because I did not have the time, and she wanted a lot of it. It is tough because the sacrifice I am making for my future is affecting my ability to date or be in a relationship. Story 31. Considering many women think the average income for men is $100,000. Yes, it's quite hard. I make closer to $50,000, but the average is between $55,000 and $75,000 a year. Scroll through the videos on YouTube or Facebook, and you'll see dozens of women on those podcast shows who all think they're going to get a man who makes 6 figures a year. There have even been some morbidly obese women who think they're going to attract a man who earns $1 million. The problem is women have this hyperinflated sense of worth. Let's say you have both men and women rated from 1 to 10. In a normal world, 5s would see 5s. In today's world, with that hyperinflated sense of worth, women who are average 5s are thinking they're going to get with 7s or 8s. Average women aren't even looking at average men. The result of this is hundreds of women who complain that men don't treat them right when they're dating guys who see them as only a quick encounter. You're chasing a guy who has better and more options than just you and getting mad that he's not picking you, rather than seeing the guy who's actually wanted you from the beginning. And for the record, I've had women look at me and tell me I don't make enough for them because I pay my bills and don't have much money left over. Average-looking women. I don't chase supermodels because I'm realistic. I'm not going to chase a fantasy thinking I'm going to get that. I've seen average and even some below-average women act like I can't afford them. This is the state of relationships these days. This is why many men are swearing off dating. It's a headache that's not worth it, especially when half the women now looking for the average guy are only doing so when they've realized that they've been used up, and the guy they want won't even see them anymore. 5 kids, numerous partners later, and they start saying, I'm finally ready to settle down and make my new man work for it. After they let none of the other guys work for it. Men aren't falling for that scam. These women wasted their life looking for something they'd never get. And now that they've hit the wall, they think they'll get it. Story 32. I actually think as a whole we are moving away from the idea that men should pay for everything. Of course, there are still women who want that, but I don't think it's nearly as common as it was in the past. Personally, I paid for about 75% of dates when my husband and I were dating because he was an enlisted rank 3 in the military and barely made any money while I had a decent career. Story 33. I know I'm going to get downvotes, but some of you need to hear the truth. I would never go on a date with a man who makes so little money. A man who expects to share a life with me and for me to have his babies better be able to provide for us. That's not happening below the poverty line. Better yourself and be ambitious. And I know I'm going to be attacked. I'm a 24-year-old female and I earn double that already. It's not hard if you're smart. If a man expects me to split the bill, I'm never accepting another date with him. Do you realize how many hidden costs go into women getting ready for a date and how much less we earn than men as a whole? The least he can do is cover the bill. Story 34. In case any of you young single guys who expect a woman to split the bill are wondering why dating is hard for you, this is why young women go for older men. They treat them better because they have the means to. They pay for the date, open the car door for the woman, and pull out her chair. It makes the woman feel special and appreciated, which is what makes them fall for a man. I would rather a guy take me for coffee, a pizza and pay for the pizza, or for a walk on the beach and bring a $12 bottle of wine than to bring me for a full dinner and ask me to split the bill at the end. Asking to split the bill makes you look uninterested or cheap.